It was a quiet summer evening in Hanam-dong, one of Seoul's most exclusive and artistic neighborhoods. The sun dipped low behind the Han River, casting soft gold across the rooftops. On the top floor of a hidden cafe known only to close friends and locals, Hye Kyo sat in a reserved corner facing the skyline, her silhouette framed by the twilight. The actress finally opened up about the story the entire world had been whispering about, her painful past with Song Joong-ki, and her new beginning with Lee Min-ho. The rooftop cafe was private and serene, filled with the aroma of brewed jasmine tea and the distant sound of soft jazz. This was her chosen place to speak, intimate, elevated, far from the flash of cameras and the frenzy of online gossip. For over a year, she had remained publicly silent, while fans and critics alike speculated on everything from her emotional health to the nature of her evolving relationship with Lee Min-ho. But now, with the air warm and still, and a single notebook in her lap, Hye Kyo was ready to tell her story. She began not with love, but with loss. The end of her marriage to Song Joong-ki was swift, surprising, and deeply wounding. People think when you're in the spotlight, you become immune to heartbreak. It's the opposite, she said, her voice steady yet raw. Every moment, every rumor, every headline, it multiplies what you feel inside. Her love story with Song Joong-ki had once been the pride of Korean drama fans. Born on the set of Descendants of the Sun, blossomed into a real-life romance that felt too perfect to fail. The wedding was lavish, symbolic, and watched around the world. Yet behind the fairy tale was a quieter truth, two people evolving in different directions. We were good together, she said, but we were not meant to grow together. After the divorce, she vanished. Not from the industry entirely, but from the public eye. She traveled to New York, city she described as both harsh and healing. She enrolled in short art courses, explored galleries, and rediscovered old passions, writing, photography, painting. Alone in a small Soho apartment, she began to rebuild her identity. I cried a lot in that apartment, she admitted. But I also laughed, alone, for the first time in years. Meanwhile, the world moved on. Or so it seemed. Hye Kyo's silence became its own kind of noise. Every role she took, every Instagram post, every outfit she wore was scrutinized. She felt that even her healing was on trial. Yet in that pressure, she found a strange sort of power. When there's nothing left to prove, you finally start living for yourself. Her comeback projects were different. Gone were the traditional romantic heroines. In their place stood powerful women, often flawed, always fearless. I chose characters who weren't afraid to break, she explained. Because I wasn't afraid to show my own cracks anymore. It was during this phase of reclamation that Lee Min-ho re-entered her orbit, not as a co-star, not as a suitor, but as a friend. They had met briefly years before at award ceremonies and industry events, but it wasn't until a mutual friends dinner gathering that their conversations deepened. He was easy to talk to, she recalled. There was no pressure to perform, no need to pretend. Over the months, that friendship quietly blossomed. He checked in when she was overwhelmed, sent books he thought she'd enjoy, and often just listened when she needed to talk. There was no grand confession, no dramatic chase, just a quiet consistency. I wasn't looking for love, she said, but I was open to honesty, and that's what he gave me. Their relationship remained hidden from the public for nearly a year. Both fiercely protective of their privacy, they developed a rhythm that worked for them: late-night drives through the city, countryside escapes, shared dinners at home. We built a world outside the spotlight, she said. And in that space, I healed. When asked why she chose now to speak, Hye Kyo paused. The sky above Hanam-dong had faded to indigo, and city lights twinkled in the distance. Because I'm no longer afraid of the story, she said simply. Because it's mine. Lee Min-ho, she emphasized. Rescue her. He reminded me that I could rescue myself. He was just there, steady, never asking for anything in return. Now, with new roles on the horizon and her heart steadied, Hye Kyo was stepping into a chapter not defined by scandal or sorrow, but by choice. I chose to love again. I chose to trust again. And most importantly, I chose me. In Hanam-dong, as the night settled in and the wind picked up over the rooftops, Hye Kyo smiled, not the poised, affected smile of a public figure, but the quiet, genuine smile of a woman who had come home to herself. Part 2 continues in the same cafe. A few weeks later, under the softness of early autumn, the leaves have begun to turn gold, and Song Hye Kyo arrives wrapped in a cream-colored coat, her hair tucked behind her ears. He orders the same jasmine tea. The mood is lighter, more open. The story now is not about healing, but about embracing. She speaks of Lee Minutes Ho with ease. He's not someone who needs the room to know who he is, she said, her fingers resting on the rim of her teacup. There's peace in the way he carries himself. They had grown closer in shared silences, in long walks through neighborhoods where no one recognized them, in watching old films and not needing to comment. It was not a whirlwind romance, it was an unfolding. He made me laugh again, not the kind of laugh for cameras, but the laugh that bubbles up before you know it. Our first trip together has been to Jeju Island, away from the city's distractions. They rented a small cottage near the sea. There, she read scripts while he sketched in a notebook. He sketches beautifully, she said. He'd never tell anyone that. They cooked simple meals, argued over what movie to watch, danced to old songs, and stayed up talking about the lives they had before they were famous. He said he remembered me from before Descendants. She smiled. He said I had the same eyes, but a different stillness. The relationship didn't come without challenges. Rumors flared after a blurry photo surfaced of them in the same neighborhood. Agencies denied it, but fans weren't convinced. Still, they kept to their pace. We knew the truth. We didn't need the world to validate it. She also opened up about moments of doubt. I didn't know if I was ready, she said. I didn't know if I could give him what he deserved. But it was Lee Minutes Ho's quiet presence that anchored her. During a particularly stressful shooting schedule, she collapsed from exhaustion. When I woke up in the hospital, he was there, reading next to me. No questions, no drama. Just there. He didn't try to fix her. He didn't ask her to change. He accepted her as she was, and that, she said, is why she stayed. Now, as they cautiously step into the public eye, she does so not for the headlines, but for honesty. I want people to know we are real, she said. Not perfect, not performative, just real. She also reflected on how different this love feels. It's not louder. It's deeper. It doesn't ask me to be less to make him more. Her voice grew tender when speaking of the future. Don't talk about marriage often, she said. They talk about growing together, side by side. She expressed a desire to mentor younger actresses, to take on roles behind the camera, and even hinted at writing a memoir. More I want to say. But for now, this is enough. As the cafe lights flickered on and the air grew crisp, Song Hye Kyo looked out over the city. This city gave me pain, but it also gave me love, and now it gives me peace. With her story finally told, Song Hye Kyo stood, offered a small bow, disappeared into the gentle folds of the evening. Not as the woman she was, but as the woman she had